world has changed. America has changed. If something were to happen tomorrow, how self-sufficient would you be? Could you grow your own food? Could you sustain your own livestock? Could you survive? This is the We Grow Our Show with Nick and Don. Nick and Don talk about everything from politics to planting. They cover techniques, methods, and tips on how to not only survive, but thrive. Visit the website at WeGrowOurs.com. Lock and load. This is the We Grow Our Show. Get your grow on.
Bienvenidos a nuestro show. Se llama Creamos Nuestro. En esta época vamos a hablar acerca de algunas cosas en la...
How many listeners do we just lose?
Sorry, everybody. That was the We Grow Our Show. I wanted to show off a little bit of Espanol. I'm the whitest Mexican y'all ever seen. They call me a Wexican. Oh, God. Now, one of my favorite things to do is to speak to somebody in Spanish that speaks Spanish, and then pretty soon it occurs to them that somebody that's white as the moon is speaking to them in Spanish, and they're like, how do you know Spanish? And I'll look them right in the eye and say, well, I'm from Oaxaca, Mexico. They're like, no. I've
actually seen this occur, so I have to admit, it's quite funny.
And they're like, but you're white.
I think I saw it at an IHOP, and you had said something in Spanish about putting a child in a cage. I'm still not quite sure how the conversation went.
That's right. That's one of my favorite things to do is when I see a mom struggling with their kid, you know, I'll walk up and it's got to be in Spanish because white people get offended by this.
Right.
But the Mexican people are just chill when it comes to kids, and they're like, my favorite thing is in Mexico, like the kids are misbehaving, they're like, oh, do you want a shot? Should I take you to the doctor? You can get a shot? I'm like, oh my gosh. You don't want to teach a kid to be afraid of the doctor? He's going to grow up with a complex. But that was a parenting style that was overly abundant. So, you know, we're at this IHOP, and this kid, he's probably 2 or 3, just big enough to be jumping around and doing stuff.
Yep.
And the mom's just had enough. And I could hear her telling her kid, you just wait till we get home. I'm going to tell your dad what you're doing. You just wait. And so I walk up very nonchalant, very businesslike. I say, ma'am, I just wanted to offer you my services. I buy unruly children. Do you have any for sale? Oh, and then to know every single time.
All in Spanish you did that.
Yeah, all in Spanish. They'll look right at their kid and say, yeah, he wants to buy you. Are you going to misbehave? He wants children that misbehave. And then I'll follow that up with, I also build cages. So if you'd like to keep your child, we can arrange that as well. And I just rent them for hard labor. And this mom is just looking at the kid. The kid is horrified, just like, oh my gosh. And the idea came to me was when I was dressed up as a missionary, walking the streets of Merida, Yucatan, and I'd hear parents tell their kids that we're being unruly. See, those are the guys. So they'll I can sell you to them.
Did you really? You heard people saying that?
Yeah. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they're going to be having a complex. Oh my gosh, the Mormons are coming to steal our children. It was funny as all get out though. I loved it.
Oh, that's kind of funny.
But yeah, I do that quite frequently.
Yes.
Anyway, so sorry about the Spanish intro. I just showing off a bit. I was trying to think of what to call the show. It's Criamos Nuestro. We grow ours. Yeah.
Say it again.
Criamos Nuestro.
That's kind of cool. It's got a nice ring to it.
Yeah. If you know what I'm saying. I
have
could have
no
just
idea.
told you to take a hike.
You're absolutely right. You could have.
Oh, well, I'm excited about this week. I'm always excited, but this week is even more special.
Yeah.
We have a baker in the house. A chef, not just a
Tess.
baker.
Yes.
And, she's promised to bring food in. So, my precious.
She knows exactly where Nick and I's heart is.
Oh yeah, this should be good. So anyway, do we have anything else to announce before we have Chef Tess in?
Not that I can think of. We have nothing to announce.
Well,
actually, nope.
Well, let me think
I'm
about
thinking,
that.
you're going to be in Kingman.
Yeah, but it's not.
The show comes out Monday.
Thank you, everyone that joined me in Kingman this weekend.
Hopefully we got some new people introduced to the show up in Kingman, so this may be the first show they're hearing.
Yeah, hopefully.
So how did it go?
I'm betting pretty good. It's the first time for this organizer. She seems like a sweetheart. I'm looking forward to meeting her in person. It's been 3 months of talking about it.
Now, do you know how many vendors are there? Is this a big show or a little show? Or I mean, for Kingman, I imagine a little show is a pretty big show.
I believe it's the fairgrounds at Kingman. So
really?
I think she's filling a building.
Wow.
So and Kingman, there's a lot of people up there that are on the edge of, not really wanting to be a member of society, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And I'm right there with you. There's days it's like, screw this. I don't want to go to work. I'm just going to give me a trailer. I'm going to pull it off and boondock.
Well, yeah, no, I hear you. And there's a lot of times I decide I think I want to exit society.
Yeah. But then again, I like the social. I like being a part of something and I like bettering a community.
Oh, that's why I do this too.
Exactly. That's why we do the We Grow Our show.
The frustrating part is when you see, and most of our audience knows this, but when you start to open your eyes to the things going on around you and you're not just the sheeple, you're not just following, and you start to look around and say, wait a minute, this isn't quite the way I thought it was.
Yeah.
It gets frustrating because it's so hard to change and it's so hard to wake people up.
Yeah. And then you're just the crazy guy in the soapbox.
Right.
It's, there's so many things going on right now that have got me feeling completely helpless.
Right.
And
we just had an election.
Exactly. It's like, let's vote in some new masters.
Yeah.
Kick out the
None
old
of
masters.
which you like.
Yeah, and it's the lesser of two evils is what you're going for. But the reality is, do you like the left hand or the right hand of the same puppet master?
Well, and the people up in Kingman, there's a lot of them that just don't want to do that anymore.
Exactly.
So they're up there, and I think this should be a good show.
Mm-hmm.
I said I'm hoping we have some new fans, so welcome.
Yep.
If you came from the Kingman show, hope you enjoy.
Hopefully you got to see some rabbit classes and.
Yeah, you're going to do a black soldier fly class too, right?
Yeah.
Because you got your little classroom up there, so.
Yep, I've got my own thing going, and I've got a helper up there. Kira, my cousin's going to be up, and
I really want to go. I got to work all weekend.
Sucks to be you.
I know.
I got to work all weekend too. I got to drive up
you're gonna
and
have
work.
fun working though.
Yeah,
I'm going to be actually working.
Okay.
So you're going to have the rabbits, and I don't know if you don't know this yet. If you go to our website, wegrowours.com, there's a shop button, and we actually have a product for sale now.
Oh yeah, the black soldier fly.
The Biopod.
Yep, the Biopod, which is awesome. Black soldier flies. We've got an episode on it, but black soldier flies.
Yeah, we've got to do a new episode on it too.
Yeah, we need to get somebody on there. Well, I guess
I think we can do that one. We can handle this.
Yep. Anyway, so why don't we go ahead and get Chef Tess in here?
Yeah.
Get her out of the waiting box.
Out of the green room.
Out of the green room.
She's in the green room.
All right. Without further ado, Master Chef.
What will you do when your stored supplies run out? Are you prepared? Hostile Hair provides equipment and education you need to control your own infinite food supply. We have live food storage systems for rabbits, quail, and other urban livestock for any situation and strategy. Don't be limited by what's on the shelves. Get started with an infinite food source today. Get prepped, stay fed with Hostile Hair. Call 480-331-3761 or visit hostilehair.com.
Welcome back to the We Grow Our show. Man, the Situation Room has never smelt this good. I am really excited about what just walked through the door and who just walked through the door. We have the infamous, as she self-proclaims, Chef Tess with us in the Situation Room, and I am giddy as a fat kid in a candy shop. So,
well, that's a good word.
which is fitting because I'm pretty sure there's food in there.
There's so much food.
I'm like the overweight dog at the door. Instead of play, it's like, feed me? You're going to feed me? Feed me? Anyway, now that everybody knows it, I'm excited. We have Chef Tess, world-renowned author and philanthropist. No, I don't know.
Philanthropist.
I don't even know what that means.
I don't know. Emphasis on pissed, maybe?
Oh man.
There's a...
Oh, okay. We've got a bio here. We've got a bio right here
From the book, right, babes?
from the book. She has handed me a cheat sheet, and this is an example of how professional we are here at the We Grow Our Show, and prepared. It's a crinkling of papers, I'm on it. Okay. So let's see. You graduated from the Scottsdale Culinary Institute in Arizona in 95.
95. Almost 20 years ago. So I've
Are
been
you
a chef
kidding
for
me?
almost 20 years. Uh-huh.
So you graduated when you were 12?
Yes. Yes,
Wow.
thank you so much. Actually, I have my 40th birthday this weekend. Kind of freaking me out a little bit.
Oh, that's awesome.
Super young, right? Yeah, I know I look like I'm like 20, just barely.
Yeah, you
Just
still
barely.
get carded when you don't buy any of that stuff,
I
do
don't
you?
buy any of that junk.
Cooking wines.
No.
No cooking wines?
I'm a clean girl. Yeah,
Oh.
clean stuff. Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm always the only one in the room that drinks.
I don't know, because you have to deal with the rest of us.
Someone's gonna drive you home, Don.
And it's like I drink a beer a month and I feel like the alcoholic in the room. My goodness.
Yeah. Anyway, you're not at all.
Was it Julia Childs? Was she the one that?
She would, yeah.
Oh.
For me, one for you, one for me.
Yeah, I remember that.
There's a
Just
lot
a
of
little
chefs-
bit.
There's a lot of chefs that are that way, and it's for me, it's just a religious thing. That's a choice that I've made, but
Gotcha.
everybody has their thing. So
That's a good choice.
Yes.
I mean, it saves the whole no drinking, no smoking thing. Wow, it
Save some money.
saves some money. I mean, I'm too cheap for those kinds of habits,
It's
man.
expensive.
we
All
make up
those
for it in
habits are.
chocolate.
Yeah, they ever make chocolate cigarettes, I might start up. I don't know. Oh man. So I'm reading this and I skipped over, I botched the sentence. It says, when she became a mother of 15 years, I didn't get
You thought I'd be
of 15. I was like, holy Mormons, Batman. You're really following the deal here.
No way. No. I got married when I was 21, so right out of culinary school. Met my husband here. He looked great in jeans. Thought, woohoo, take him. And been married almost 19 years now, so
Oh, wow.
Nice.
just amazing to still be together and still love each other.
Yeah,
and,
you're ahead of the
rock
curve.
and roll, exactly, right?
Well,
Like-
the way you cook, I don't think there'd be any man that would
Nobody would
leave.
leave.
Does he still look good in those jeans, or did you ruin that for him?
We might have gone up a couple sizes, but he's still stinking adorable.
Oh, I hope my wife can say that about me.
I heard her say things about you, and that wasn't it.
Oh, good thing she doesn't listen, though. Oh, man. Well, that's awesome. So 15 years ago, you set out on the dream. You're living it.
Yeah, well, I finished culinary school. I was working as a pastry chef and then became a banquet chef. And then right about 99, where they had like that Y2K scare, everybody was freaking out. We stocked up on a bunch of wheat and food storage and got all our stuff together. And then that's about the time after my doctor had said, you're never going to have kids, that I was expecting a baby. Ta-da!
Wow.
So
Show you, Doc.
I know, right? But the cool thing was, like, the planes didn't fall out of the sky, the computers didn't explode, and I was able to be home with my son, watch him take his first steps, but I did every single thing from stinking scratch so I could be home. We saved as much money as we possibly could doing everything on our own, teething biscuits, crackers, all of our own bread, everything that could possibly be done from scratch. I wanted gourmet from my food storage so that I could be there with my baby when he took all of his monumental, that golden year, that first one, that where you just can't, you
Yeah.
can't even put a price on that being there. So we lived on our food storage, moved from our nice house to a tiny little 300 square foot condominium in the middle of like downtown Crackville, and it was really scary.
300 square foot, that's tiny.
That is, that's like an episode of Tiny House right there.
It totally was, dude.
We've been talking about
Great.
tiny homes, and like we're looking at 500 square foot. Like, oh, I don't think we can do that.
That's a mansion compared to a. But it was a scary part of town. I mean, we had to hide under the kitchen table during New Year's Eve because people were shooting up in the air, and
Oh my gosh.
it was wild. It was an adventure, but I learned a lot about myself and about if it was really an extreme situation, what you'd be willing to do to be there with the people that you loved. And for me, that was a huge thing. It was a blessing, huge blessing.
And that's when I explain to people that I'm a survivalist or on the edge of becoming a prepper, because I'm not full-fledged yet. I don't have the, 20,000 rounds of ammo and all the guns and stuff that I want.
I have 20,000 rounds of 22 ammo at home.
Do you really?
It's like a penny a shot. Does that make me a prepper?
Well,
it's 22.
Yeah, but you
I
can't find it. That's
cheap.
like
I think only about
Now
half
it's like
of it'll
gold.
fire now, but
Yeah.
Anyway, but what I wanted to point out is, you don't have to wait for an economic collapse, a tsunami, an
Right.
earthquake, or any of these things that would interrupt national food supply or even local food supply. You could lose your job.
Absolutely.
And you're in much harder times if you don't have something saved up.
Absolutely.
And I actually had somebody tell me, well, my prep plan is my 401k, or my prep plan is the $5,000 that I've got in the bank account. It's like, okay, $5,000 is most people 4-month house payment.
Yeah, exactly.
And can you
And then
find
what?
can you find a good job in 4 months?
Exactly.
I mean,
what
if
you can replace it with.
Yeah. And so what your story, that really drives it home. It's,
Yeah.
you were able to survive without, going and working.
Yeah. It was
And
amazing.
that's awesome. So please continue with the story.
So we did that until my first was about 3 years old. And then we were expecting another one. Then what do? So, I continued along
Go
that
slap
path.
that doctor that told you
I know,
otherwise. That's what you
right?
do.
You are completely brainless, but it's okay. I still love you. Stop having more kids. So had my second, then we actually, things were a lot better at that time. I was starting to be able to put aside a few more things. I was dehydrating a lot of stuff, doing my own food storage, with local markets. And then I actually started a food blog because I was getting my bishop at my church called me in. He said, I have grown men coming in with their wives, talking about their finances, how things aren't working out, and we're looking at their food budget, and these women are spending $400 a week on groceries. And I just started laughing, and I was like, I spend like $100 a month, maybe. And he goes, that's what I'm talking about. So you've got to help these women. And I was like, well, it's probably the men too. They're probably just getting the convenient stuff and throwing it in their carts and loading up on all the chemicals and junk and not even realizing that not only is that affecting their family's budget, but their long-term health. So I had ladies over to my house periodically just helping them learn how to do the basics, how to cook rice, how to cook beans. We have a whole generation of men and women that grew up without home economics in the school system. So it was just, holy Hannah, these girls don't even know how to cook rice. I mean, that's just a simple staple. You gotta learn. So that was what I started doing. And along the way, about 6 o'clock at night, I'd get a phone call from 6 or 7 different women. Tell me again how to do the rice. What do I do? And that's about the time I started a food blog and started taking picture by picture instructions and doing it so I could go, just go look at the blog. It was for my own sanity. And then about 6 months into that, Fox News on Channel 10 here in Phoenix found me and asked if I'd come on and do a TV segment for them. And lo and behold, 5 years later, still doing TV segments all over the valley. Have written 4 cookbooks, all of them nationally published. And it's just been a grand adventure just seeing, okay, this is what people want. They want to get back to the basics, everything from scratch. They just want to learn how to live without all that junk in their system.
absolutely.
And now you've made it to the pinnacle of your career. You are on the We Grow Ours show. Yes. Mission accomplished.
Now I can just go home and go, guess what?
That is awesome. That's so much. Your story is amazing. And, my wife and I, that's something that we struggle with. We are 2 people. Why is it draining our bank account to eat? Now, granted, I'm a big guy, but I don't drain the pantry. It's like I can go and look in the pantry and there's nothing in there that I could make anything out of. Like, what is this crap? I don't know what to do.
These are ingredients. Where's the food?
And then the fridge is full of leftovers from 3 days ago because when we do make something, it's like tons of stuff. But
and then you don't eat it, do you? Once you've put it in the fridge, it's like the vault.
Yeah.
We should not pull that out and have dinner with it again.
I know, that's called animal food. It's 3 days old. It needs to go to the chickens.
Chickens. About 7 days of most stuff that's been in the fridge.
Oh
so.
gosh, yeah. It's like a cold composter.
It is. It is. It is. Do you ever open up at the back and you look in there and there's like a container and you're like, Huh, that's an interesting color. That could be meat or cake. I have no idea what that is.
Is that St. Patty's Day cake or last month's meatloaf?
Exactly.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, it's perfect. Yeah. Delish.
Oh, that is funny. So, what was I going to ask? Oh, so off the air, we were talking a little bit about from the ground up baking, and one of the points we really try to drive home to the people listening to the show is you're not independent until you've taken control of your food supply.
Oh, absolutely.
Independence is being independent from being independent in the forms of food, fuel, and medicine.
Absolutely.
If you can grab those three things, you're set. And food is my favorite subject, obviously. Fuel is a close second, and I don't like doctors, so medicine's Just kidding.
Well, food can be your medicine. That's a big one. Yeah. That's a huge thing.
I think that's kind of the point that we're getting at is if you have good food, you're not going to need as much medicine.
Absolutely not.
So let's talk about that a little bit. How do we get going? I mean, America right now, the citizens, we're dependent on the store to make our bread. It's like, oh, we want good artisan bread. We're going to go to an artisan bakery. No, I don't know how to make that. They have magical elves in the back of their bakery doing these things. Please, Chef Tess, how do we get one of these magical elves?
You get my book, first of all. I'm just kidding, actually.
No, that's a good point. Let's put that in there. Bread art, braiding, decorating, and painting edible bread for beginners.
Which is kind of funny because bread has been my baby, my absolute favorite thing to do since I was a kid. And when I started my blog, it was, decorative, beautiful breads. And then I realized, you know what? I'm kind of have to start at the beginning where people can know, okay, what flour do I use? One of the first questions I ever got from a comment on my blog was, well, yeah, but how do you measure flour? And I started giggling at home, but then I was like, oh, that's so sad that we have people that don't know, but you know what you know. It is what it is, right? So I did a little demo on how to grind your own flour from the grain and how to measure it and now it's kind of like they send their friends and their friends can learn it and they can do it in the privacy of their own home. They don't feel like someone's going to, cause I'm not like Hell's Kitchen chef. I'm not going to yell at them or freak out, and people send me, I'm really sorry to even ask this. I'm kind of embarrassed. And I'll just go, why? It is what it is. Like, if I was going to ask a question about how to raise rabbits because I don't have rabbits I know, right? Okay. Nick's looking at me like, what the heck? How does she never? So I have a half acre in my backyard, so we can work out this rabbit thing pretty soon. But anyway.
You can pay me in bread.
Okay. We can exchange nibbles for nibblers. It's good.
So that reminds me of a funny story. Growing up, my mom was the ward canning specialist. And that's, I think we talked about it last episode or an episode ago. The ward is like, the congregation of your neighborhood. Anyway, we had this hand crank, what do you call it? Wheat grinder.
Wheat grinder.
It was a mill and she mounted it on the counter and all of my friends were so duped. Like they'd come over and she'd be like, hey, do you guys want something to drink? And inevitably they would be fighting over who got to
I want to grind the wheat. Not me. You too.
Oh my gosh. And so we'd go through like a number 10 can of wheat a night because these guys are like, oh, this thing is so cool.
Okay, Nick, don't tell my boys, but they still fall for this. They still fall for this every single time. And 15 and 11, both my boys still, when that crank comes out, yes! Oh, it's my turn. And I'm like, you know how many calories you burn when you're doing that? It's a good workout. All the girls are going to love you. Look at your pecs. Look at them. So there it is. It's kind of it's a
get me one of these.
Mother's prerogative.
I want to go grind wheat now.
Grind some wheat.
But
screw pumping iron.
Yeah. So I mean, the first thing I realized was how inexpensive it was to get grain compared to already pre-made flour, and nutritionally, the big difference between the two. Once grain is ground, it has about a 5-day window where it has all those 40, whole wheat has about 44 vitamins and minerals that your body needs.
Right.
And it has about 5 days where your body can actually assimilate all that before some of that dissipates into the air. Some of the oils start to go rancid and things like that. If you're buying whole wheat flour that's been sitting in the grocery store from a month up to a year long, it's got rancid oils in it. It's not as good for you. It's just
Or it's full of preservatives.
It's full of preservatives or, added chemicals to make it raise better, blah,
See,
blah,
I
blah,
didn't
blah.
know I should just go buy wheat and grind it.
Yeah, you can. So there's different kinds of wheat that are out there and that are available. Some are what's called modern wheat, which the wheat that we have now is not genetically modified, but it has been hybrid. Hybrid and GMO are totally different things.
Yes.
So GMO would be something that was genetically changed at its DNA level in a laboratory. Where something that's hybrid is just cross-pollinated with something close by it until it becomes a better, stronger wheat. Right. Modern wheat has about 42 occurring chromosomes in its gluten content. Ancient wheat, like a kamut grain, that one
Spelt.
and spelt. Kamut and spelts, those ones are very, very similar in their protein, but their protein is a different composition as what it is.
There are 14 chromosomes, I believe.
There's 28 in kamut and about 17 in spelts. So those ones are a lot easier.
We have an ancient wheat that we grow that's, I think, 14 or 16.
Yeah, there's a few other ones that are just that lot much lower, much easier for your body to break down. Right. Wheat as it was originally intended, and those ones are a lot easier for your body to digest. We're not talking gluten free because there still is gluten there.
Well,
but
the reason we started raising it, off the air, I'd mentioned my wife is a celiac and not just gluten sensitive. She's an actual celiac. She gets very, very sick on gluten. Yeah. We actually tried this to see if she might be able to tolerate some wheat to be able to make things out of. It didn't work for her, but my kids are actually fairly tolerant of the lower chromosome wheat. And we can go as far as making, like tortillas and things like that. And it doesn't seem to affect them.
See, and that's the thing. Sometimes it's an intolerance to modern wheat just because it's so much more difficult to break down than the ancient grains. And a lot of times those ancient grains can be switched out. But if you are a true celiac and you really have an issue with that, check with your doctor. Always check with your doctor. I'm certainly not a doctor, but I'm just saying.
Dr. Chef
Tess.
That would be cool.
I would. It's like Dr. Spock.
A light bulb just went on.
You get your doctorates and that'd be cool.
Well, I'm looking at your book and I think you're pretty much already a doctor in bread. I mean, come on. You got birds in here.
We do a lot of fun decorative
teddy
breads
bears
and beautiful breads.
And fish.
So starting with the basics though on these breads, I mean, in the book you look at it and there's about 15 of my core recipes that I've used over the last 20 years as a pastry chef. Ones that are really simple, easy to do, but my all-time favorite ones are the ones that are 4-ingredient, no-knead bread. You throw those ingredients in a bucket, you mix them up, and you just let it sit on the counter with the lid on overnight. In the morning, the dough is ready to be made into bread. You don't have to have a special machine. You don't have to have any kind of special training in order to make this bread. And it's been really nice because it's one of those where I had a lady sitting next to me on a plane, for example, a lady sitting next to me on an airplane. And I'm telling her about this because I'm one of those that talks on the airplane. I know there's those that read their magazines and hide and don't want to meet anybody. But I sat next to this lady and she looked at me and I looked at her and I'm like, oh, we're going to be friends forever. But she's telling me how about her and her husband are ministers. They're going to Africa. They're helping this village learn how to bake. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're kidding me. She's like, yeah, our biggest concern is the yeast and how are we going to get, everything that these people need to be able to make their bread. And so I kind of started to describe the method that I do where you take the dough, you make it, and then if you were in a situation where you couldn't get any more yeast, what would you do? How would you get your bread to raise? And really, yeast is a living organism. Mm-hmm. You get it going and it'll go forever as long as you don't heat it too hot or, get it too cold. And even cold, it can survive for a pretty long time. But,
I think we've got yeast packets in the fridge.
Right. And everybody does, have most of the people in America have the commercially made yeast. But, for eons around the world, that's not how it was done. You would collect the natural yeast spores that were in the air, but there's also natural occurring yeast that happens on grain. Once it's harvested, there's natural yeast that just thrives on each different specific grain.
Really?
And so a lot of times when someone will do a rye sourdough in combination with the wheat, there's a different kind of yeast that grows on the rye compared to the wheat flour. So it makes a different flavor compared to what it would be if it was just straight wheat. So It's crazy how that works, but that yeast, that natural yeast, can go and grow and grow and grow. But if you only had like a little bit of commercial yeast, about a quarter of a teaspoon to get it started, and made your dough, you could divide that dough into, about a half cup portion in your hands, divide it among as many people as are there, have them mix their ingredients with their water and their flour and a little bit of salt, let it raise overnight, then now they have active working yeast a full amount, and all they do is just retain about a half a cup of that dough for their next loaf of bread.
Gotcha.
Add their ingredients, keep it growing, keep it rolling.
Is that kind of like a sourdough starter? I've heard of that.
It's like a sourdough, but it never gets sour because it's live active yeast.
Nice.
So it's a lot different, but that one will keep going for years and years and years, and the flavor will become more complex and more amazing, and it just works over time to the betterment of your bread. Absolutely amazing thing.
To the betterment of your bread. That should be in a poem. Oh my gosh. Now, this is not your first book. This is the most recent. This one came out in April.
It came out in April. So my first two, the first one, it was the Gourmet Food Storage Handbook. That one is just the basics of how to combine, a lot of scratch cooking. We go from appetizers, all the main course, breakfast, lunch, dinner, desserts, using freeze-dried, dehydrated ingredients, how to basically cook with them. Sometimes people they'll put a lump sum of their food storage into their closets and never even think about using it. And then what do? I got 12 cases of powdered butter. I have no idea what to do with this stuff, You know what I'm saying? Or powdered eggs or whatever. And
I think I made a bed out of ours. We needed one of the futon legs broke loose, so I've got canned goods underneath of it.
Exactly. This stuff is great. It's a total staple. It's so strong.
It's modern day Legos.
Yes, exactly. You're in your front room building forts with that stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, totally.
Sock wars. We have sock wars at my house.
Sock wars?
Wad up the kids' socks and tie them in knots and throw them at each other like snowballs. There it is.
I was thinking she's going to put the canned food in the sock. I'm like, somebody's going to get hurt doing
Prison
that.
style. Jeez.
That's cool.
Don't mess with Tess. Oh, man.
We have fun. We definitely have fun. Anyway.
Oh, my goodness. So the first book was, say the title again.
Gourmet Food Storage Handbook. And
Gourmet
that was
Food
actually
Storage Handbook.
sponsored by Honeyville Farms when I was their corporate chef. They asked me to incorporate their food storage products, their whole grain, freeze-dried and dehydrated ingredients.
Now, Honeyville is all food storage.
They're all food
For those that don't know,
They're
right?
actually one of the largest grain companies on the West Coast. So they're very, very heavy in the food storage industry, but they also do specialty flours, all kinds of amazing grains, and they're a great company, really good quality products, and I've been a really big fan of them for a long time.
Oh, you've been their corporate chef.
I was their corporate chef for 2
cool
years
is
and
that?
just loved it. They're just really sweet people. So,
Really?
yeah.
So the two books from them.
So,
Now,
yeah.
are those available through Honeyville? Or are they available at your website?
You can go to my website and it links over to honeyville.com where you can find them, or you can just get them directly from them at honeyville.com. They're also available on Amazon and a lot of different locations.
No, I will put some links on our webpage for all of your books.
Awesome. Very good.
This is my kind of picture book, too. It's just
I'm just looking at it
happiness
and
is
getting
coming
hungry.
out of the pages.
Well, we should eat. I should bust out some of this grub I brought you guys, huh?
Heck yeah, let's do that. Why don't we take a quick break and
Yeah, I'll go for food. All right. We're done.
you can't see it, but I'm shaking here.
And twitching a little bit.
All right, let's try it.
Well, now we've got a very calm, doped up, fat guy over here about ready to fall into a food-induced coma. Bring the energy of the show down a couple of notches. This is as drunk as Mormons get right here. Food.
It was not just food, man. That
Was
that's good food.
delicious.
Thank you so
If she hadn't said, if you didn't say that it was food storage, I would have thought, wow, what restaurant is preparing this? This is
Yeah, seriously.
amazing. I've got tears in my eyes right now.
I would have not had a clue that was a survival food or from a food pantry. There's no way.
That's the whole point. A lot of people will think, okay, food storage, oh gosh, it's already the end of the world. You know what I'm saying?
They're
And it's
popping grains
they're
of
popping-
flour in their mouth and
Oh
grinding.
my gonna die. So my approach to food storage is if you don't eat it every day. When I was making it for my family and initially started doing my menu for my food storage. And I'm a chef. That's how I planned my food storage. We did, okay, here's the menu for 7 days a week. And Monday was this, Monday night was this. We started with the basic one that you just had, the pasta with the sausage and the tomato sauce and the cheese melted on top. So with the freeze-dried cheese, the freeze-dried sausage, the tomato powder, the pasta, the freeze-dried mushrooms, all that stuff that goes in one jar. And then I figured out there's 52 weeks in a year, yeah? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So every Monday night, if I do 52 jars, I have my food storage for an entire year for that menu item.
How hard is it to do 52
It's not
jars?
too. It's four. When I did it, I kind of rounded down. I did 4 cases of each. Okay. So I did breakfast and dinner, 14 different meals, and I had my food storage for a year.
So, do you know what does it run to do that?
You know, that's a great question. I'm glad you asked that. Usually it's about $10 a meal for those full-size meals with the freeze drying because it's a dry process, but the shelf life is 10 to 15 years compared to home canning where you're looking at 1.5 to 2 years max where it's safe and you have to keep rotating it over and over and over again.
So let me break that down. That's how much? $10?
$10.
How many people does that feed?
That feeds about 6 people, usually about 2 cups of food per person.
I'm full.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's $520 for a year of dinner.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You see how that could just make it simple. It was just
that's
for me.
2 weeks of grocery budget right there.
Exactly. And that's how I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be something weird, some weird enigma my kids had never had before. I wanted it to be food they were familiar with, food that it didn't go to my food storage unless when I made it, they were licking their plates and begging for more. Then it went in my food storage because I knew if we had something happen where it's just something stupid like losing your job and then we'd have to live on the food storage, I didn't want it to be like, oh my gosh, what happened? Did the universe fall apart? It's, hey, we're having pasta tonight, Right. No brainer.
Routine.
And they don't need to know, Literally, they do not need to know that you've lost your job.
So
last thing they should have to think about.
Absolutely. Yeah, a kid doesn't need to worry about that.
Absolutely not.
So are you supplementing with any other fresh foods?
Yes. And so, you can grow your own stuff and have that.
We kind of like that idea.
I love to grow your own. That's brilliant. And I actually would go out to farmers, local farmers, the organic farmers and say, do you need anybody to help pull weeds or whatever? And I'll pull weeds for groceries. No problem. So when we were starting that point, it was, I didn't really, cause my dad is a master gardener. I grew up with growing stuff. But at the time we were living in that tiny little condo, that wasn't really an option for me.
Right.
Right. So it was, plan B is these organic farmers are happy to pay someone in vegetables for coming down and picking their groceries.
Right. I mean, think of an ear of corn. It feeds 2 people really. Cut it in half, put it alongside of a meal like you just served us.
They'll never
know.
I
mean, that was phenomenal.
I have no idea. Yeah, absolutely. So
wow.
That's how we did it for a long time, and it's been great.
Now
great.
I'm adding in my head, how much do I have to go out and let's go to the grocery store and do this? I just want to get like a whole year right done now. Ange, if you're listening, and my wife of 19 years, when I get home, you're going shopping.
Well, if people are looking for the recipes, they can go to my website, cheftessbakeress.com, and it will have a link to my blog. Go over there. It's got all the meals in a jar recipes there that you could possibly want and step-by-step instructions on how to store them and the safety and everything that's involved with that. So it's a great resource. Really great resource.
We need a Chef Tess party.
What?
And I'm so going to bring my wife, my mother-in-law, my mom, and there's a bunch of rabbit people. The ladies on my Facebook page. Shout out to you all because they make it fun on there. They've got Tammy up in Superior.
She cooks some amazing rabbit dishes.
Seriously, she's on there like at least twice a week with a rabbit recipe.
Nice.
And
all right, Tam, it's on, girl.
Yeah, and I'm sure she'd be ready. She'd be down to party. Her and Brittany, she just got a cage system. She actually won it at the conference.
Yep.
Excellent.
And she's actually looking to can. She needs some tips on canning.
Excellent.
So
we can.
I think we need to have an East Side party.
Absolutely.
All you West Side.
Wait. I'm on the North Side.
Deal with it. It'll be a good. You've never been to my house. So
No, I haven't.
That's because I haven't invited.
Nick.
Well, I'm kind of picky about who I have there.
Oh.
And mind you, he filmed an entire episode at mine.
Oh, Don, you're a good
Hey, Don,
sport.
can I come over and bring a film crew and burn rabbit poop in your yard? Would you mind?
Oh no, you did not do flaming rabbit poop in Don's yard.
Oh, we did. We were attempting to power a generator with it.
But you weren't throwing it. That's good.
No, it wasn't a flamethrower. No, it's
No.
Oh my Lord.
No, but there happens to be a methane collector still in my backyard.
that's right.
It's all
Wow, it's been up there since April. I'm such a jerk. I'm
It
sorry.
methaned everything.
It's just free fuel, man. Just
That's what
use
it is. All right, back to food.
Yes. I'm like, seriously, I'm in my happy place right now.
Oh,
Full
I'm so
belly.
glad. Thank you.
It was warm. Could you give us the rundown on how that was prepared? I mean, you have this awesome. It
It looks like a crock pot, yeah?
Yeah,
It's
well, I was going to
crazy.
say it looks more like a really fat thermos.
It does. It is. And that's exactly what it is. It's called a Saratoga Jack. It is a heat retention cooker. So what you do is it has a compartment on the outside that is basically a giant thermos. And the inside has stainless steel pots that are 2 different layers. So you can cook like a bottom layer and a top layer with different foods in it. Or you can just fill the bottom with boiling water and the top with a smaller meal. But the whole point is it has to be filled with boiling hot water or something boiling hot in order to keep retaining the heat. But most crock pots, most of those cookers that people use at home on a regular basis cook at about 185 degrees. Water boils at 211 degrees at our altitude that we're at. So if you bring that water to a boil, you put it in that pot, it only loses 5 degrees per hour in that highly heat retention situation that it has. So what that does is it continues to cook and cook and cook until you're ready to have your dinner up to 8 hours later. And it's been a really great tool and then that's a method that's been used for eons, that heat retention method, but it's awesome.
That food was hot.
Yeah,
It wasn't warm. It was,
I blew on
it came
every
out
bite.
hot.
Smoking hot. And that's the whole point. A lot of times people will look at like a Wonder Box or some way of doing they'll see it online and go, oh, that's something I should try and do. And what they won't realize is that they've got this cooker, but what they're doing is they're keeping it at a temperature where it's actually growing bacteria and then they're feeding that to their family. So it has to be a hot enough temperature where the bacteria isn't able to grow and a hot enough temperature that food can still be cooking. Because food can still be warm to your touch and almost burn your mouth and be loaded with bacteria because it's at a temperature that will induce, I mean, we're at 98 degrees. So anything hotter than that, like 110 degrees is a breeding ground for bacteria. Anything over actually 40 degrees to about 135. So
Really?
that window, you don't want your food just sitting there like that for a long time.
So no more cold chicken for Nick.
No more cold chicken or cold rabbit.
Rabbit never gets cold in my house. It gets heated up and it gets eaten.
Eaten bueno. Love it.
Anyway,
Anyway.
on that note, comatose Nick over here is going to have to sign off. So, well, let's give her the rundown again. We've got 3 books available at the moment.
We do the Gourmet Food Storage Handbook, the Meal in a Jar Handbook, which are the meals that you just had, and then the Bread Art Book, which it just came out in April. So, and then we have one coming out in January, so that'll be the next one.
Stay tuned.
So, very excited.
We'll have you back on to
I
talk
would
about
love
that.
that. Oh my gosh, I would love that.
Yeah, me too, as I gaze over at the cooking devices.
We have fun.
And then one more time where we reach you.
You can find me, Chef Tess, on Facebook, Chef Tess, Tess, and then on my blog, Chef Tess Baker, like Baker, like a baker, S like a princess, ESSE, and that's .com or .blogspot.
Cool.
I get it now, Baker S.
Baker S, the baker princess. Oh.
Just now you get it.
I am slow, Dawn, and I am full. All of my thinking ability is going to digestion at the moment.
I've done my job.
Well, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me, you guys. It was so fun.
Things just got real. The drugstore is closed and the doctor is unavailable. What are you going to do? Stock your medicine cabinet and bug-out bag with Nature's Alternative essential oils. Visit mylavenderlife.com for all your essential oil needs.
Well, my stomach is full. I am feeling extraordinarily fat and happy at the moment.
That was some good food.
Oh my goodness. And then the fact that it's all food storage.
Oh, I know.
Ridiculous.
But the bread.
Oh yeah, the bread.
Bread, her bread was amazing.
Oh gosh.
I'm a bread fan. So, go check out the show notes.
Yeah.
Episode 41, WeGrowOurs.com.
We're over the hill.
Yep. Over the hill. I'm going to have a link to all of her books on there. So go check that out.
Awesome.
I mean, I don't know what it was. She said that the yeast, I don't know if we did that on the air. The yeast that she's using in that bread is about 5 years old, that she's been continuously doing that. And that gives it a different flavor.
The culture has lasted that long.
Yeah. So this was almost a sourdough, but not a sourdough. I mean, it had that.
It had a tinge to it.
Yeah. And this is a self-rising that she does in the bucket. Mm-hmm. It's phenomenal. And I didn't know it was so easy to do bread. So I live in a predominantly gluten-free household, but I certainly enjoy bread when I can. And this is something I want to learn how to do. And
I'm going through I just want to see the table of contents in this book real quick. Let's see. Wow.
Yeah. All sorts of yeast.
General bread tips, the basics of good dough formation, yeast adjustment schedule. And this is a book that I'm definitely going to end up buying or taking this one home. She left the studio. These two books are sitting here. So hopefully they will be mine one way or another. So I'm excited to have them.
Yeah.
Whether I got to pay for them or she's just that cool. What an awesome interview though. I love those interviews. It's like just a good conversation.
Right.
I think I say that after all of the good ones.
Well, and we discuss food storage a lot and how we don't like it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we don't think that you shouldn't have it. It's something you should have a month, 3 months, 6 months, a year, whatever it is you're comfortable with, put it aside, because when it comes to raising rabbits, it's a great supplement. When it comes to growing your own food, it's a great supplement. There's situations that you can't do that stuff. And there's times when it's going to take months to get built up to that. So during those periods of time when maybe you have a bad harvest, you need food.
Well, what is it? 9 weeks to get an aquaponic system set up?
9 weeks to get the initial cycle. There's ways to make it go faster.
Yeah.
But you're on average going to be about 9 weeks and then 9 months to maturity. Yeah. So,
well, rabbits, if you buy a set of weaners, weaning age, sorry, that's, oh gosh. That goes back to the pig racing days. all the weaning age pigs, they just call them wieners, but, wiener. Weaning age rabbits, they're at 4 to 6 weeks old. And you have to wait till they're 4 to 6 months old. Right. And then another 3 months before you have a product.
Right.
So 7 to 10 months in that range before you have rabbit to eat.
No, that's why it's also important to start doing this stuff now.
Exactly.
So it doesn't, if you have a breeding trio, you've got something to get started with. Exactly. You've got some food to get you going. You've got your storage. You've got your canning. Go back. We did an episode on canning. We've done all this. So you guys can empower yourselves and put it all together into that final product. And I mean, a big part of that, we talk about storing seed for fodder.
Yep.
Well, you can store wheat too, the seed. And it's going to be much more nutritional and give you a much healthier diet if you're taking that and milling it down and making your bread out of it or even your pastas out of it than you're going to get if you store the flour.
Yeah, and just like she said, that if you're storing flour, basically all that's left is the starches when you leave it sitting for a long, long time.
Well, and what struck me I'm going to go back to the bread again, was that piece of bread was heavy.
Yeah, I mean, she handed it to me, and it's like, whoa.
This is a small piece of bread that weighs a half a loaf worth of that junk you buy in the store.
Yeah, $4 a loaf bread at the store that's the best stuff the store has to offer.
Right.
Couldn't compare to this.
No, it's a heavy, yummy bread.
Mm-hmm. Delicious.
I'm in a food coma now. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I'm going to doze off and get a DUI on the way home. I'm going to fail a field sobriety test if they try it on me.
Well, alcohol is a byproduct of yeast, right?
Yeast. Yeah, that's right. I'm fermenting in my stomach. That's what's happening here. My speech is slurred.
There you go.
Well, we touched on a little bit. This is just a little bit of subject change. We touched on it a little bit in the intro that there are things that are out of our control right now. Mm-hmm. Politics, corporations buying government. Mm-hmm. And this entire, I don't even know how to describe it. I mean, our system is broken, and I'm not a doom and gloom kind of guy. I don't like dwelling on the things that I can't change. I mean, there's plenty of other podcasts out there that are going to bitch about it.
Right.
I'll say that. That's what they do. But what we're trying to get you guys to do is you've figured out you want to be independent. These things will make you independent if you start getting your food storage going. Food storage is about the easiest thing you can start doing.
Yeah.
And the things that I usually tell people, oh, don't do food storage, is because they're not going to know what to do with their food storage. But these books that Chef Tess has available will teach you how to use your food storage and what to store. And
she's making the meals in a jar one too. That is just really cool. And I know my wife actually loves doing that. Mm-hmm. It's more challenging for us, I think, with the gluten free.
Yeah.
But it can be done. And she actually talks about doing it that way as well. But man, I'm looking forward to doing more of that type of food storage, because you're taking the dry goods that you've got and you can basically can them without canning. So you're putting them together as a meal. When I get home, my wife, for example, had to run out today at 3:30. She had an emergency she had to go take care of. And the kids are home. They're old enough to be home. So what do they need to do now to cook? If we have a jar sitting in there, hey, pour that in the water and let it boil a little bit and stir it. That's it. It's better than any microwave meal we're going to get.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of microwaves, I just read that it's changing the chemical composition of some of the foods into some not so good things.
Yeah, we've actually had our microwave outside 3 times now. We've taken it out of the kitchen and put it outside so I would get rid of it.
Really?
And I've been hesitant to do that. And it's actually ended up back in the kitchen for like one thing. You know, like, oh, let me just put it back there so we can do this. It was sitting on a chair in our living room for about 2 months.
Oh, gosh.
And we'd plug it in every once in a while. And like, we don't want to put it back in the kitchen. We're really trying, because we were big microwave users.
Yeah.
And we're really trying to wean off of it and get back to that.
Do you know what it, I mean,
it actually, microwaves change the chemical, the way that, I mean, the waves come in and bounce around and change the actual chemical compositions. Basically, even if you take, spinach is a good example. We used to microwave our spinach because you could take spinach and microwave it pretty easily and warm it up into a meal. It actually kills anything good in there, and it kills it from the inside out. It's just horrible. And yeah, I've read recently more and more and more about how microwave is actually changing the molecular structure, not just killing the stuff, but killing the good things, but it's actually changing it into something that's, like you said, that's not so good. Do I know the science? No, I don't. But I've definitely been reading that, and I know we're getting off of that microwave. I've actually got to just go donate it or take it down to Goodwill.
That way some poor people can radiate their food.
Oh, I hate throwing stuff away. Something that works like that. Yeah, because there might be somebody out there that doesn't have a stovetop.
Okay. So, microwaves.
Mm-hmm.
There's a video online right now that we should probably put in this post.
Uh-oh.
It's, this kid takes a glow stick.
Oh no.
And puts it in the microwave for like a minute. And the thing don't try this at home, damn it.
At all.
It super glows. Like,
really?
Super, super bright.
Like 5 glow sticks.
Don't freaking do it though, with some adult supervision.
I mean, I'm gonna be getting rid of the microwave. And my wife would never want to use it if I threw a glow stick in it. Does it explode?
Here's the deal. It doesn't.
Oh.
He opens up the microwave. He pulls it out by the little string. He's like, oh man, he pulls it up and it pops all over him.
Well, I'm not going to do
this
that.
Molten.
Yeah. Did
green,
he get hurt?
Yeah. And then you hear his dad come in and he's like, damn it, Johnny. What did I tell you, you dingling? Now I got to figure out how to, and he's just going through. It's not like, oh, are you okay? He's like, now I got to figure out how to fix you and all this stuff. And he's just got this glowing gloop all over him. It's molten gloop. And he's screaming and.
He's okay. No, I feel bad for laughing.
So do I, but at the same time, he videotaped himself getting blown up with a glow stick from. It already looks like nuclear waste.
The fact that the father didn't panic just kind of reminds me of my family. So I mean, we just,
You gotta watch it because he's in a panic.
Yeah.
But he's cussing the kid out
okay.
while he's doing it.
I mean, yesterday, I get a call from my wife. Hey, your mom had to pick Austin up. He needs stitches in his finger. So she's going to take him to Wendy's afterwards. So don't worry about, we don't need to worry about him for dinner. That's the phone call that I get. Not, not anything else. Just, hey, by the way, your son's at the ER getting stitches and, don't worry about him for dinner. I'm like, all right, no problem. Didn't even dawn on me. Like, when you get home, I'm like, what'd you do? Oh, I need stuffing stitches in my finger. He almost cut his pinky off, no big deal.
How did he do that?
He was playing with a knife and it didn't lock and he was pushing down to open something.
And it didn't lock.
Did the locking, or he hit the lock with his hand and it folded around his pinky.
You know what? I've had that happen.
Yeah.
But luckily it was with one of those box cutter knives that have the blade on the very end. So
Gotcha.
I smashed my hand in the knife. And was scared to death for like 3 seconds before I realized I wasn't.
Oh, no, this was a full knife.
Yeah.
It was right to the bone. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, right now he can't straighten it out and it's sticking to the side a little bit, but we're not sure if that's because of the stitches or if that's because of the tendon damage. So.
Oh man, I hope he didn't damage tendons. What do? You just drink with your teacup figure out after that?
I got my mom trained, so, my family's trained. They went through me, so every broken bone and a number of stitches, so.
I only broke 2 bones in my life.
I had collarbone, elbows, many of fingers and toes, knee.
I drank lots of milk.
Yeah, I did too.
All right, we're rambling.
Yeah,
now.
well.
These people are probably done with this.
So, our website,
WeGrowOurs.com, and coming soon, Criamos Nuestro.
Yeah, go to,
.com.
I don't know what he's saying. Go to WeGrowOurs.com/ask us. Ask us a question. Send us a voicemail. Send us a voicemail. Thank you to our sponsors, PureNaturalSimple.com, HostleHair.com. Without them, we couldn't do this. And we would love another sponsor.
Please, sir, give us another sponsor.
So if you're interested, WeGrowOurs.com/ask us and just give us a holler. You can also email us at WeGrowOurs@gmail.com. So thank you.
We'll see you next week.